Hey everyone, my name is Matt. Welcome to my shop. Today is November 10th and it's my weekly shop update. So, a couple of things going on in the shop. I got these guys, the goosenecks, all cut and ready to go onto the upper case of the highboy. And I also got here and knocked out a quick little fun project, a little, we're going to call it a gentleman's valet box. Whoops, almost dropped it. This was a fun, quick project to make. So let me show you a few of the details of this thing. So we have a pretty simple lidded box with a curly white box material or side material. Some really nice spalted birch for the top and the bottom. And then I have this banding here, this accent wood for the knob as well as the banding. That is some thermally modified ash, and it looks really, really cool. The ash has a really, really rich chocolate brown to it, and it has that ash dark or rich, wow. It has that ash deep grain pattern, so it matches the look of the oak a little closer, and it doesn't look anything like walnut, for instance, if we do something like that. This has some pretty serious pores in it, and it looks a lot more like really dark or stained red oak or something like that. So this is a really cool accent, which I am pretty thrilled about. So we also have some pinned box joints, and those are just pinned with some aluminum siding nails, which turned out pretty cool. So this was a really cool and fun and quick project for me, and a lot of it was just kind of playing with some design ideas. So I had originally just come up with this idea of using a small banding in here to make up the gap that's naturally in some of these hinges that are made for doors. So when you set a door into an inside opening, you want a little gap around the outside, and these hinges have a small gap built into them. So if you were to just mount them flush onto the lid and onto the body of the box, there'd be a little bit of a gap between the lid and the body. So I thought it'd be kind of cool to fill that with something else so that it's it mounts flush. So that was kind of the starting point. And then from there it was like, well, what else can we do? Let's find some cool materials that work well together. Let's try some interesting joinery. So I went with the larger box joints and the pins, which I thought were pretty cool. And I kind of made up, your pretty standard knob lifter and dealy bobber thing there. And yeah, it was just fun. Just get out here and do something a little different. So the video for this will be out next week. I have a little bit of editing to do on that still, but I'm looking forward to getting that one out there because there's a lot of cool stuff in here. And even though I did do a continuous grain pattern across the whole outside of the box, so I'll talk about that in the video, but it's not all noticeable on something like this that's not mitered. But still, super happy with this. Feels good. I'm happy. The end. Let's move on. So over here in highboy land, this week was all about the gooseneck moldings, getting them all finessed and cut out of that big block and mitered and onto the case, or ready to go onto the case. So because I cut the profile with different router bits, and especially this big cove here that I didn't have the right router bit for, I approximated this cove with a smaller cove bit. I had a decent amount of cleanup work to do to get that cove all perfect and kind of flowing from top to bottom as one single cove instead of a bunch of step coves. So I did a lot of cleanup work there with a carving gouge and some scrapers to get that section all cleaned up, and then the rest of the profile I can get cleaned up as well with some more scrapers. And once I had the profile mostly cleaned up, I still had some finish sanding to do. I went ahead and released the molding from the rest of the blank to reveal the final size or the final shape of the molding, and that fit. So with the long moldings all cut out, then I can actually cut the miters on these things. That process was probably the easiest thing, but making all these moldings took the least amount of time. I probably spent like 4 hours cleaning up the profile, and then the mitering took like, I don't know, 20 minutes or something like that, pretty quick. The whole process of making these goosenecks went a lot faster than it did the first time I did this like 2 years ago. This has been a lot faster. I think mostly because I know, at least in my mind, what I'm doing, and I don't have to stop as often to like think about what's going on. So it's just nice to be able to just kind of push through, knowing the direction, and yeah, it's been good. So next up on these things are the returns. So these get a short return up here to to return it back to the end of the scroll board, and then the long returns that go along the side, those get mitered and put in here like that. So decent sized moldings that are going on to this case. So that's what I've been up to in the shop this week. Next, let's take a look at some viewer projects. First this week is an end table by Paul. The table was made from all rough sawn lumber, and the base is attached with dowels and glue. The drawer is butt joined together with a piece of 1/2-inch plywood for the bottom. And the drawer front sits flush to the frame, so it makes it look like the table doesn't even have a drawer. Next is the coffee table by Tim. The tabletop is pecan and the base is cherry. The pecan for the table came from a tree that was blown over during a tornado. Next is the flag case by Chris. The case is made from walnut and features birch splines. Chris made this for a family friend whose wife recently got her U.S. citizenship. The flag was flown over the U.S. Capitol in her name, and they wanted a case to hold the flag. Last this week is a closed tree by Jeff. Jeff says his design inspiration for this was the natural form of a living tree with a trunk and branches supported by the roots. The tree is made from cherry, joined with a domino, and the finish is Danish oil. I think that's about all I have for this week. No, I lied. Heads up. No, I already told you about that. I got the video on the box coming out in a few days, probably next week. Never mind. Brain is not here. Wow. All right, so thank you as always for watching. I greatly appreciate it. If you have any questions or comments about anything I talked about today or anything here in my shop, please feel free to leave me a comment. As always, I'd be happy to answer any questions you might have. And until next time, happy woodworking.